Welcome to an extraordinary story that will inspire you and deepen your understanding of one of the most influential religious leaders of our time. Today we're exploring the life of Pope Francis, a man who transformed the Catholic Church with his humility, compassion, and revolutionary vision. As you read, notice how small moments shaped his character and how his unique approach to faith has touched millions worldwide. This isn't just about learning. It's about discovering how simplicity and authenticity can change the world. So, prepare to be moved by this remarkable journey of a man who went from the slums of Buenos Aires to the highest office in the Catholic Church. Jorge Mario Bergoglio was born on December the 17th, 1936 in Flores, a working-class neighborhood of Buenos Aires, Argentina. His parents, Mario José Bergoglio and Regina Maria Sivari, were Italian immigrants who had fled Mussolini's fascist regime, seeking a better life. His father worked as an accountant for the railways, while his mother managed their modest home. The family wasn't wealthy by any means. They lived in a simple house and practiced frugality in all things. From his earliest days, young Jorge witnessed the dignity of honest work and the value of living without excess. What many people don't know is that before becoming a priest, Jorge worked as a bouncer at a nightclub to help support his family. Yes, the future pope once stood at club doors, deciding who could enter. He also worked as a janitor, sweeping floors and cleaning buildings. These humble beginnings taught him about the struggles of ordinary workers and shaped his lifelong commitment to labor rights and dignity. Years later, as pope, he would often say, "There is no worse material poverty than that which doesn't allow you to earn your bread and deprives you of the dignity of work." When Jorge was 21 years old, something happened that would change his life forever. While walking through the streets of Buenos Aires, on his way to celebrate Spring Day, he felt a strange and powerful urge to enter a church he was passing. Inside, he encountered a priest he'd never met before and decided to confess. Something about this anonymous priest's compassion deeply moved the young man. Jorge later described this moment as an encounter with God's mercy that transformed him completely. "That confession changed my life," he would recall decades later. It was the surprise, the astonishment of a chance encounter. Shortly after this experience, Jorge entered the seminary, beginning his path toward priesthood. However, his journey wasn't always smooth. At age 21, he suffered a severe lung infection that became life-threatening. Doctors had to remove part of his right lung, a health issue that would affect him throughout his life and give his voice its distinctive soft quality. During his recovery, a wise nun named Sister Dolores cared for him. "She saved my life," Francis would later say. "She argued with the doctors because she knew instinctively what to do." This brush with death gave young Jorge a profound appreciation for life and taught him resilience in the face of suffering. Jorge joined the Jesuits, an intellectual religious order known for their educational mission and social justice work. The Jesuits have a reputation for rigorous training, and Jorge's education took years. He studied humanities, taught literature and psychology, earned degrees in philosophy and theology, and eventually became a professor. His fellow students remembered him as intensely focused, somewhat serious, but with flashes of unexpected humor. One classmate recalled how Jorge would bring mate, a traditional Argentine herbal tea, to share during study sessions, creating moments of community amid the demanding academic work. In 1969, at the age of 32, Jorge was ordained a priest. Rather than seeking prestigious assignments, he requested to work with the poor. His superiors recognized his leadership abilities, however, and by 1973, he was appointed provincial superior of the Jesuits in Argentina, the youngest person ever to hold that position. He was only 36 years old, leading hundreds of priests through one of Argentina's darkest periods. The 1970s were tumultuous years in Argentina. A military dictatorship took power in 1976, beginning what became known as the Dirty War. During this brutal period, an estimated 30,000 people disappeared, kidnapped, tortured, and killed by government forces. As a Jesuit leader, Father Bergoglio faced impossible choices. Many expected the Church to publicly denounce the regime, but open opposition often meant death. While some have criticized his public silence during this period behind the scenes, Father Bergoglio worked secretly to save lives. He hid targeted people in his Jesuit residence, arranged safe passage out of the country for others, and personally intervened with military officers to secure the release of detained priests. One Jesuit, Franz Jalitz, later confirmed that Bergoglio had helped hide him, and another priest from the military. These experiences shaped Bergoglio's understanding of power, politics, and the complex moral challenges religious leaders face. What's fascinating about Jorge Bergoglio is how he evolved through different leadership roles. In 1992, he was appointed Auxiliary Bishop of Buenos Aires, and by 1998, he became Archbishop. In 2001, Pope John Paul II made him a cardinal. Yet, despite these prestigious titles, Bergoglio maintained remarkably simple habits. He lived in a small apartment instead of the ornate archbishop's residence, cooked his own meals, and rode public buses around the city. The locals of Buenos Aires have countless stories about their unusual archbishop. Bus drivers remember him standing quietly among other passengers. Shop owners recall him buying his own newspaper. And residents of the city's poorest neighborhoods, the villas, miserias, or slums, remember him arriving without fanfare to celebrate Mass in makeshift chapels. He got his hands dirty, sitting with drug addicts, washing the feet of AIDS patients, and blessing children that society had forgotten. One telling moment came during a devastating economic crisis in Argentina in 2001 to 2002, when nearly half the country fell into poverty overnight. While politicians and elites protected their wealth, Cardinal Bergoglio sold the archdiocese's valuable properties to fund soup kitchens and aid programs. He criticized corrupt officials publicly, saying, "Instead of investing in the poor, they put their money in tax havens." For this courage, he received death threats, but he never stopped advocating for the vulnerable. In February 2013, Pope Benedict XVI shocked the world by announcing his resignation, the first papal resignation in nearly 600 years. Cardinals from around the world gathered in Rome for a conclave to elect a new pope. At age 76, Cardinal Bergoglio wasn't considered a frontrunner. Many thought he was too old, too moderate, or too far removed from European centers of power. Inside the Sistine Chapel, where cardinals cast their votes in secret, something unexpected happened. Before the voting began, Bergoglio gave a brief but powerful speech, warning against a self-referential church that believes in itself rather than serving others. This simple message resonated deeply. His fellow cardinals later described a palpable sense of the Holy Spirit at work as votes shifted toward the Argentine cardinal. On March 13, 2013, white smoke rose from the Sistine Chapel chimney, signaling a pope had been elected. When Cardinal Jean-Louis Tauran announced, "We have a pope," and proclaimed Franciscum as the new pontiff's chosen name, confusion momentarily rippled through the crowd. No pope had ever taken the name Francis before. Moments later, when the new Pope Francis stepped onto the balcony of St. Peter's Basilica, he did something unprecedented. Instead of immediately blessing the crowd, he asked the people to pray for him first. He bowed his head in silence as thousands prayed. This simple gesture of humility stunned the world and signaled that his papacy would be unlike any other. The surprises continued. That evening, Pope Francis declined the papal limousine and instead rode back to his hotel on the bus with the other cardinals. He went to the hotel desk to pay his own bill, called his newspaper kiosk in Buenos Aires to cancel his subscription, and wore simple white vestments without the ornate accessories traditional for popes, small moments but powerful symbols. Perhaps most shocking to Vatican insiders, Pope Francis decided not to live in the luxurious apostolic palace, where popes had resided for centuries. Instead, he chose to stay in the Vatican guest house, Casa Santa Marta, explaining that he needed community and couldn't live in isolation. "I'm psychologically unable to live alone," he admitted with characteristic frankness. This decision meant eating meals with ordinary Vatican employees and priests, maintaining a normal routine, and staying connected to everyday concerns. In his first weeks as Pope, Francis washed the feet of juvenile detainees, including Muslims and women, breaking with a tradition that had previously included only Catholic men. He embraced a man with severe facial deformities during a public audience, an image that went viral as a representation of his compassion. He carried his own briefcase, made his own phone calls, and drove around Vatican City, in a modest Ford Focus rather than luxury vehicles. These weren't mere publicity stunts. They reflected a profound conviction that the Church needed to return to its roots of simplicity and service. "How I would like a church that is poor and for the poor," he declared in an early address. This wasn't just rhetoric, it was a mission statement. Pope Francis's papacy has been marked by both controversy and acclaim. His 2015 encyclical Laudato Si addressed environmental destruction and climate change, framing ecological care as a moral obligation. Critics called it politically motivated, while supporters praised its prophetic vision, linking environmental protection with concern for the poor, who suffer most from pollution and climate disasters. His approach to divorced Catholics, his openness to discussing priestly celibacy, and his famously quoted line, "Who am I to judge?" regarding gay priests who seek God faithfully have sparked debate within church circles. Traditionalists worry he's undermining doctrine, while progressives often wish he would go further in reforms. Francis himself seems unconcerned with these labels, focusing instead on what he calls the joy of the gospel and the Church's mission to heal wounds. What many find most inspiring about Pope Francis is his ability to communicate profound ideas in simple language. Rather than abstract theological concepts, he speaks in vivid metaphors and stories. He's described the Church as a field hospital after battle, emphasizing healing over judgment. He's warned against sourpuss Christians who live as if in perpetual Lent. And he's compared the Church to a mother who never closes the door of her house to her children. His travels as Pope have reinforced this commitment, with visits to prisons, refugee camps, war zones, and slums. In 2015, he was the first Pope to address the U.S. Congress. Instead of focusing on politically divisive issues, he spoke about four remarkable Americans: Abraham Lincoln, Martin Luther King Jr., Dorothy Day, and Thomas Merton, using their lives to illustrate principles of freedom, equality, social justice, and spiritual dialogue. Perhaps most telling about Francis's character is his sense of humor and lack of self-importance. He's been known to make jokes about mothers-in-law, to wear a red clown nose for children's charities, and to take selfies with young pilgrims. When asked how he handles his global fame and influence, he responded, by not thinking about it. This ability to maintain perspective amid extraordinary responsibility has endeared him to millions, Catholic and non-Catholic alike. Pope Francis often speaks about the importance of tenderness in Christian life, a quality not often associated with religious leadership. To be faithful, to be creative, we need to be able to change, he has said. The fear of change is the first symptom that we have grown old. This openness to evolution, while maintaining core values, characterizes his leadership of an ancient institution in modern times. In a world increasingly divided by ideology, nationality, and religion, Pope Francis emerged as a global voice for unity and dialogue. He prayed with Muslims in mosques, visited Buddhist temples, hosted Jewish leaders at the Vatican, and sought common ground with secular humanists. When asked about his vision for humanity's future, he often returned to the image of building bridges rather than walls, a metaphor with both spiritual and political dimensions. What made Pope Francis's story so compelling was not just what he accomplished, but who he was, a man of contradictions who seemed entirely comfortable with complexity. He was intellectually brilliant, yet valued simplicity. He held traditional Catholic beliefs, yet approached difficult questions with nuance. He occupied one of the world's most exalted positions, yet identified with society's cast-offs. He was a conservative in many ways, yet a radical in others. This authenticity, this comfort with being fully human while pursuing the divine, made his story not just interesting, but deeply resonant. If you learned something new today, don't forget to like this video, share your thoughts in the comments, and hit that subscribe button. It only takes a second, but it makes a huge difference and helps me keep creating better English videos just for you. Your support truly means the world. Thank you so much.